If you're a leader, executive business owner, or HR professional, you've probably asked yourself this question at some point. Are wellness programs actually helping my people, my team, or are they simply helping us feel like we're helping? Because let's be honest, most organizations today have some version of wellness, either a mindfulness app, a yoga class, an employee assistance program, a webinar during mental health week, a lunch and learn, a resilience workshop, a wellness newsletter. And yet, people are still exhausted, still overwhelmed, disengaged, still struggling with stress and burnout, and maybe even leaving. So, which raises a difficult question. If we're investing more in wellness than ever before, why aren't people feeling better? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because after years of working in human resources, talent development, leadership development, and now in workplace well being, I've come to believe something that may sound controversial. Most corporate wellness programs don't fail because they lack good intention. They fail because they're trying to solve nervous system problems with information and education. And information and education alone rarely creates transformation. Here's my opinion. Most organizations are not suffering from a wellness problem. They're suffering from a regulation problem. Let me explain. Employees today know they should sleep more. They know they should exercise. They know stress is bad for them. They know they should take breaks and how mindfulness is so beneficial and self-care really matters. The issue isn't lack of knowledge or awareness. The issue is capacity. Because when someone's nervous system is overwhelmed, exhausted, and operating in this constant survival mode, knowing what to do doesn't necessarily mean they can do it. Think about that for a second. The average employee isn't struggling because they've never heard of self care. They're struggling because they don't have enough internal resources to consistently access it. And that's a very different challenge because you don't or you can't educate someone into regulation. You have to help them experience it. So let's talk about what happens inside many organizations. A leader notices rising stress levels, absenteeism increasing, engagement scores declining, and people seem disconnected. Morale is dropping, turnover starts creeping up. So the organization responds. They bring in a wellness initiative. Everyone attends, people nod, take notes, enjoy the session, maybe even feel inspired, and then Monday arrives. The inbox is still overflowing, the deadlines haven't changed, the meetings haven't disappeared, and the pressure remains. And within days, many employees are right back where they started. Not because the program itself was bad, because inspiration has a short shelf life when physiology remains unchanged. This is one of the reasons wellness programs often receive mixed results. They create awareness, but awareness alone isn't enough. I remember my years working in corporate environments, and one thing became very clear. Most people aren't walking into work carrying only today's responsibility. They're carrying yesterday's stresses, last week's stresses, last month's stress, even last year, sometimes even more than years of accumulated stress. So the meeting isn't just about the meeting. It's the meeting on top of poor sleep, on top of caregiving responsibility, on top of financial concerns, on top of relationship challenges and years of operating at that maximum capacity. And when enough pressure accumulates, the nervous system starts adapting. Hypervigilance becomes normal. Busyness becomes normal. Stress becomes normal. Being constantly on becomes normal until eventually people forget what regulation even feels like. And that's where many wellness programs miss the mark. They focus on wellness as knowledge instead of wellness as a physiological experience. Let's look at what the science tells us. Your employees are not simply thinking machines. They're biological systems. Every decision they make, every conversation they have, conflict they navigate through, presentation they deliver, and every email they send is influenced by the state of their nervous system. When the nervous system perceives ongoing stress, resources get redirected. Focus narrows, creativity decreases, patience actually shrinks. Emotional regulation becomes more difficult. Collaboration suffers, problem solving weakens, and decision fatigue increases. And here's the challenge: most organizations are trying to solve these outcomes without addressing the state that has created them. It's like constantly cleaning water off the floor without fixing the leak. Eventually, we have to look upstream. Now, let's raise the stakes here for a moment, because this isn't just about wellness, it's about leadership, it's about culture, it's about performance. One of the biggest misconceptions in business is that well being and performance exist in these opposite sides of the spectrum, that somehow we must choose focus on results or focus on people. But the highest performing organizations that I've worked with understand something different. Regulated people perform better. Regulated leaders communicate better. Regulated teams collaborate better. And regulated employees adapt better. And regulated cultures recover faster. The goal isn't to eliminate pressure, because that's unrealistic, isn't it? Pressure is part of life. Pressure is part of business. The goal is helping people develop the capacity to recover from pressure. Because resilience isn't how much stress you can tolerate, it's how effectively you recover from that stress. You bounce back from that stress. And those are very different things, right? So, what actually happens or makes corporate wellness programs more effective, in my experience, there are three things. First, it must be practical. Employees don't need another 87-page wellness handbook, okay? They don't need tools they can use during a difficult meeting, before a presentation, after a conflict, during a stressful day. The best wellness strategies fit into real life, not ideal life, real life. Second, it must be experiential. This is where many programs fall short, because they don't transform. People don't transform because they received information. They transform because they experienced something different. When someone feels their shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks, that's memorable. When someone experiences calm in real time, that's memorable. When someone realizes they can influence their state in under 60 seconds, that becomes memorable. Experience creates belief. Belief creates action, and action can sustain that change. Third, it must be integrated into leadership, because cultures always follow behavior. If leaders preach well being but model exhaustion, employees will notice. If leaders encourage boundaries but send emails at midnight, employees will notice. If leaders talk about balance while celebrating overwork, your employees will notice. Culture isn't built through posters or wellness workshops. Culture is built through behavior, and employees learn far more from what leaders demonstrate than what leaders declare. Now, let's talk specifically about breath work, because people often ask me, can breathing really make a difference in the workplace? And the answer is absolutely yes. And not because breathing magically solves every organizational challenge, but because breathing influences the system underneath those challenges. Because imagine two employees entering the same difficult conversation. One is really stress reactive and operating from this survival mode, and the other is regulated, grounded, and emotionally aware. Who is more likely to communicate effectively? Who is more likely to listen, more likely to respond than react? And the difference isn't intelligence, it's state. And breath influences that state. It's the quickest way, really. That's why I teach leaders what breath isn't, or why breath isn't just a wellness tool. It's a leadership tool, a communication tool, performance tool, a resilience tool. Because every leader carries their nervous system into every room they enter, into every meeting. Let's do a quick exercise together. If you're watching this as a leader, try this with me. Sit comfortably, relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, take a slow inhale through your nose for 4 counts, and now exhale slowly for 6 through the mouth with a gentle sigh. Again, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause for just a moment here. Notice what changed. May not be dramatic. It may actually be very slightly, very subtle, but notice. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. Because the moment we become aware of our state, we gain influence over it. And that's where true well-being begins. So, do corporate programs actually help your team? The answer is they can, but only if they move beyond checking a box. Only if they help people experience regulation instead of merely learning about it. Only if they acknowledge that human beings are not productivity machines. They're nervous systems carrying responsibilities, emotions, stressors, and stories. The most effective wellness programs don't simply tell people to be well, they help create the conditions where well-being becomes possible. And that's a very different conversation. As leaders, we often ask, how can I get more from my team? But perhaps a better question to ask is, how can I help my team recover more effectively? Because when people recover better, they think better, lead better, communicate better, collaborate better, and ultimately perform better. Not because they were pushed harder, because they were supported more intelligently. I'd love to hear from you. If you're a leader, what's been the biggest challenge when it comes to employee well-being? If you're an employee, what's been the most impactful wellness initiative you've ever experienced at work? Share it in the comments below, because these conversations matter, and the future of leadership won't belong to the people who can push the hardest. It will belong to the people who understand how to create environments where humans can sustainably thrive. And until next time, keep breathing, keep pausing for just a few moments if you can every single day, and keep leading from regulation and not reaction. I'll see you next time. Your Breathwork Barista, where we refill your leadership lungs. Ciao for now.